Today, we welcome our guest, Chelsea Anderson, aka Chelsea Explains on Instagram. Known for her signature mix of humor, honesty, and a touch of snark, Chelsea shares clever babysitting hacks and fresh insights that help parents make life easier, more manageable, and a lot more fun.
We read the books, we bought the things. We thought we were ready. And then life took our plans and changed them. I'm Karen, I'm Victoria's mommy, and I work in tech.
And I'm Pamela. I have a baby boy named Ford, and I'm a journalist. And although we're both first-time working moms, we're actually pretty different.
And that's totally okay. Because we both agree that our most important work is raising our kids. We really need each other and can only get through this together. Welcome to Motherish Moments.
All right. Welcome. Welcome to Motherish.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, really quickly, I'll just dive into my motherish moment because this is the life. So, Chelsea, I have a 6-year-old daughter named Victoria. And this week, she decided to give me the guilt trip of all guilt trips. We are nearing the end of the school year, and she's like, Mama, you've never been to any of the events at my school. You're not going on today's field trip. You like haven't done anything in the classroom, which by the way is not true, but okay. And she was like crying. And then I'm like, great, now I'm gonna cry. Like I just like deal with like forever mom guilt. So I was like, man, okay. I was like, well, let me see. And the truth is like, it's so hard because the I work, like I mean, being a stay-at-home parent is also a job. I always want to be clear, but like I have a physical job that I have to go to. I have to be in the office. I work for the MLB. So like I work baseball games, like it's insane. And like the WhatsApp group of the classroom, like they're like, here's the link to volunteer. And of course, other people that are much more connected to their phones during the day are like, okay, I signed up. And then by the time you get to it, you're like, great, there's no spots left. Thanks, guys. Like, leave some space for us. Anyway, whatever. Nonsense. But that's just my motherish moment. I'm dealing with my own guilt and I'm kind of like, it's all good. It's fine. Her truth is not my truth.
I mean, I it blows my mind how parents do it at all because like jobs are not that flexible. You have to be in meetings, like things are scheduled but school ends in the middle of the workday.
Yeah,
And
thank
then
you.
yeah, everything
Every
I and from
Friday release or like every Friday they get out of school at 1:30.
like that's so
What?
crazy.
What do I do? Like, and I get it, like after school, but everything is like money, money. And like,
Yeah.
we don't have it like that. Whatever.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
of course, I'm sure your kid is comparing to maybe a stay-at-home mom or a
yeah,
mom with a more flexible
yes.
part-time job and is like, well, they don't understand.
Yeah, I know, I know. And it's not her job to get it. So I'm just like, it's okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chelsea, tell me about so that you're like not even a year in. How long has this? Tell me your story. How did this happen?
Yeah, I think actually like today is I think 6 months on the dot of when I started posting content and I really fell backwards into this kind of niche of babysitting hacks. I am not a parent
Yeah.
myself, so it's kind of odd to be a quote unquote parenting influencer. But I adore kids and I was a nanny and a babysitter all through high school and college and even sometimes after. And now it's fun because my friends are having kids, and it's made me realize a little bit how in our society, if you don't have kids, you're just never around them,
Right.
which is such a shame because they bring just so much joy and seeing life through their eyes is so interesting. But for most adults, you're not around them unless you have kids yourself or friends who have kids. And hanging out with my friends' kids just kind of reminded me like I'm being taken back to all my babysitting hacks and all the things that I would do as a babysitter, which I really enjoyed. And one day I was playing with my friend's nephew and he was obsessed with me, which is the best feeling ever when a little kid is like thinks you're the greatest. And I went home that day and I just kind of told a story to camera about how when kids that I was babysitting didn't want to go to bed or get in their PJs, I would have something called the PJ fashion show, which is just where I'd put on some music and they'd put on their PJs and they'd have to brush their teeth first, of course, to have shiny smiles for the fashion show. And kids loved it. And then I said something in the video like, and I have tricks for after that too, to get them into bed. And then I just put my phone down and didn't look at it I didn't look at my TikTok for like 2 days. And when I opened it, like the moms were like, what comes after the PJ fashion show? Like, how do we get them into bed? So then I made more videos and it just kind of went from there. People loved all the hacks. And so I just kept putting them out there. And yeah, it led to a bunch of crazy opportunities right out of the gate. I got a book deal, which I announced yesterday because it's finally all final. So I will be
Amazing.
writing a book of all the hacks. And it's been such a whirlwind, but it's been so fun.
That's so awesome. I like for context, I worked at Instagram and Facebook with content creators for like 10 years.
Oh, no way.
My current job is also with content creators. So hearing your story, like I love it because I understand both from the parenting side, because I'm like, give me all the hacks. And ultimately, so much of it comes down to like gamification in a way, right? Like,
100%.
but and that's the part when I've thought about this, like where as a parent, sometimes you're just like pretty much running on fumes and you're out of gas and you're like, I don't have the patience to be like, let's make it a story. But it works. Like it really works. And it's about like kind of sometimes just setting that like take a step back and being like, hey, like, let me be present because what's usually getting you all stressed and in your feelings of not having the patience, et cetera, it has nothing to do with your kids, you
No,
know?
no.
And it's so if you align with them and you get on their same page and level, you're able to do the stuff that you share a lot, you know? Um, so I'm curious, have you had any like haters? I mean, this is such a, it kind of goes hand in hand, I'm sure, like with the lovely internet. Uh, how have you dealt with that? Like, what do they say? Like, what is that like?
I mean, when I first started this, I'm like kind of a big believer in manifesting and just really setting intentions of what I want. And I wrote down, like, no one will ever be mean to me.
Yeah,
And I really have not had anyone be mean to me.
I
It's
love it.
actually kind of crazy. I'm like knocking on wood.
No, same. I
There
got you.
was there was a there was one point where I was posting more like political things and
Mm,
people were not even rude, but they didn't even attack me. They were just like, "Oh, I wish you didn't get political." And my response to that was like, I mean, human rights are not political and you're
right.
blocked. You don't get the hacks.
Yeah, yeah,
And people showed up in my email begging to be let back in because they're like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Please, I need the hacks. Like, you have to
yeah.
unblock me. And I was like, I don't know. No, I don't. I don't have to. And then I posted something that was like, this is my page. And if you want to come on here and say, leave politics out of it, I'll leave politics alone when they leave me alone.
Yeah,
But this is
yeah.
my platform. And
It's my party and I'll cry if I want to.
yeah, and literally, I think there was one video where I like was crying.
Yeah.
But that was the only time ever. And I did debate whether I would say anything political, but I was like, I don't want to have to hide who I
No.
am or what I believe in. People who don't agree with what I'm saying, which is just, we should all be kind to each other.
Yep.
And if they don't align with that, they're on the wrong page because that's
Yeah.
my whole ethos. So
So
that was the only time.
I want to get to know you more on a personal level. So like, what, I also saw a video where you shared that you finally quit your like full-time job to be able to focus on this. Mind you, like, as again, someone who comes from working with content creators, that is the flex. That is like the turning point. It's a big moment. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
But what was your day job? And like what like what is it related? Are your worlds coming together? Is this totally different? Pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah. So I worked in advertising as a creative. I've always loved making content and having concepts and storytelling and honestly convincing people to do things that I think they should be doing or buying. I've just always been that way. And that is advertising and that's also influencing.
Yep.
So then those two things kind of felt predestined in a way, but write commercials and come up with concepts for brands to do stunts or social media. And honestly, the content creation side, like I was working with creators on the other side, kind of similar to you, where we'd be pitching creators to be in campaigns that we were doing. And at one point, I was kind of like, I feel like I could cut out the middleman here a little bit. I'm coming up with these ideas and then telling other people what they should make a video about. And I was like, what if I made the video? And so it's a really fun job, honestly, as far as like a corporate job goes, to just come up with silly ideas and write scripts and work with cool directors. Like that's amazing, but it's hard to do both. As I'm sure you know, like a podcast is a full-time job. You also have a full-time job. You kind of start these side things and end up with two jobs. So I feel very
Million
lucky that now
jobs.
I'm switching to just this job.
That's awesome. And then, okay, so people who started calling you the Michael Jordan of babysitting?
That would be me. That is
Oh, I love that for
self-appointed.
you. You're like, it was me.
Yep. My very first video was like the opening line, and I had 40 followers at the time. I was just messing around. My first video, I just said, growing up, I was the Michael Jordan of babysitting. I could get kids to do anything. And then, people liked that hook, and I messed around. I said a bunch of different people in the beginning. Like, I'm the Serena Williams of babysitting. I'm the Taylor Swift of babysitting. But the Michael Jordan one just kind of stuck, I think, because saying you're the Michael Jordan of babysitting, people are like, what on earth could that possibly mean? So they
Yeah.
stick around to hear what I mean by that.
Yeah. I also was probably think that it's a target that the people who are parents right now, they're like, oh yeah, I get that one. I get
Right.
that reference.
It's not for
Like
kids. Yeah,
it hits
exactly.
millennials hard. Like we're like, we know him. We know him.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. And then what have been kind of like let's say, your top three um hacks for parenting that people like kind of come back to over and over and over again?
I think you touched on it already, which is just infusing play into everything. And I kind of tried to teach people the formula for the hacks because I would just go back to this formula. But again, I think parents are so underwater that they're like, just tell me exactly. Don't tell me a formula.
Give me a
But what,
script.
yeah, what exactly? The ones with the actual scripts do very, very well. But,
Just joking. Oh my
one of
God.
the ideas is if your kid has some resistance to doing something like eating a vegetable or taking a bath, to see if you can come up with a character that would have less resistance to doing that thing. So, for example, one of my first videos was, I can get kids to eat vegetables because kids don't like to eat vegetables, but my pet bunny does. And I hand feed my pet bunny celery and carrots, and they'll eat a whole platter of crudité because they're a pet bunny. A pet bunny loves to eat vegetables and be cared for in that way.
Yeah.
And if you want your kid to take a bath, well, a kid doesn't want to take a bath, but maybe your puppy wants to go to the groomer or things like that, where it's just like thinking of a character. Um, Another one is just timing the kids to do anything. That always works. One of my first videos was, to your total point of gamification, this idea called the mystery box, which is where I had a box that just had question marks on it and I put little prizes in it. And sometimes they were just stuff I had made. Sometimes they were my old toys. I wasn't working with a big budget in high
Yeah.
school or college. And then kids could earn points all day by being good. And at the end of the day, if they get 100 points, they get to open the mystery box. But the real genius of that one is you can tell the kids that they can pitch things for ideas for points. So now they're coming up to you being like, can I make my bed? Can I brush my teeth? Can I put away the dishes?
Genius.
And so that one works very, very well. But yeah, it's that gamification. If you just said you can have this little prize if you're good all day, that's not nearly as exciting as
Yeah.
the idea of maybe getting to open a mystery box. And then let's see, what's another one? I mean, PJ Fashion Show is a classic. Oh, one that I was surprised got so much attention was if you need to get a kid to leave a place, like a park, someplace fun that they don't want to leave, I would tell kids like, first one to the car gets to be the co-pilot. They get to pick the first three turns, which I was always in a neighborhood, so that never mattered. We were going to the same place.
You're like, it was a
Or
roundabout.
exactly. Or and the second kid gets to be the DJ. They get to pick the song.
Okay.
And you know, I haven't babysat in a long time, so I'm like, I don't even know if these things are still motivating to kids.
They
But
are.
according to the whole internet, that it still works. So that
Yeah.
was another one.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild because everything you're saying, I think the biggest factor in there is the parents slowing down, right? It over the course of the podcast, we've had this podcast for about more than 4 years now, and there's a few episodes here and there that really always come back in my mind, especially as in a struggle with my daughter or whatever. One of them was we interviewed a lady who was helping us understand how to practice mindfulness with our children. And she says children are innately mindful. They are present. They're not 5 steps ahead or 2 steps behind. And we, as we get older, as we become adults and our lives get more complex, we are less and less mindful. So we have such a hard time connecting to the present, right? And
Yeah.
so with kids, a lot of times what will make them the happiest and make them do whatever, go from point A to point B is 100% mindfulness. And that's what you're doing. Like you're literally like in the moment, present with them. Um, there was another video I saw of yours about the monkey lunch.
Mm.
And like, this was like, to correct me if I'm wrong, but like getting kids to like finish their lunch or dinner or whatever meal, cutting it into little pieces, putting it on a big board, potentially introducing a new food in there as well, and taking them like outside to be like monkeys that are eating. And I'm like, what would prevent me from doing that? Right. And it's the answer is always stress. The answer is always rushing and like whatever. And like, I don't know. I think that as parents, we have to take it back and we have to be like, you know what? What am I rushing to do? Am I rushing to do the laundry? Am I rushing to do something for somebody else that's not even really how necessary is it? You know?
Yeah.
Because before you know it, now I sound like an old lady, but like before you know it, your kids are like 17 years old and like that's it. It's
Yeah.
over. Like, no, it's not over. My mother would tell you, it's not over. You're 40. I'm still dealing with you. But like this part of the battles back and forth of the little things, like it goes by like this, you know. Um,
Absolutely. And I think to that exact point, one of the reasons I was able to come up with all these hacks is because I was not a parent. I am not a parent. I didn't have to rush to do laundry or get all these other things done. And also, when I started this, I was like 15. So I was very close to childhood still. I could remember so easily
yeah.
back, what, 5 years ago before that when I wanted to do these things. So I think being the babysitter gave me like this headspace because I wasn't dealing with all of the things and the proximity to childhood that helped me connect a little bit closer. And then because I babysat for so long, that just got ingrained in my brain a little bit. But I do talk about that because I don't want any parent to judge themselves and be like, well, I should have thought about how to be that creative. I'm like, I'm sure you
No.
couldn't. And I'm sure if I were a parent, I couldn't, but I
You
wasn't.
want to
And
have
so
kids?
I love kids and I do. I think this um whole career of what just happened so fast that right now I'm like, this is kind of my baby for a while.
Yeah, of
But
course. Yeah.
I mean, I think having kids would be so amazing and I would love that. I'm just not quite sure what the timing of it looks like at this point.
I mean, you never really know, honestly. This is again me being an old person here, but I'm like, you have this timing and you're like, it's gonna be like this, and then life is like, well, actually, no.
So true.
Okay, cool. And then let's see. So what you're saying about remembering or like the proximity, right, to your childhood. I weirdly feel like that about my entire teenage years, even though I'm a little bit far removed from a numbers perspective. But like
Hmm.
every time my mom brings up like, oh, when Victoria's gonna be a teenager, blah blah blah, I'm like, no, because I remember. And I think that what you're saying, like it really adds so much perspective to be able to kind of reconnect. So it's really what you're doing is coming from a really solid place, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of I don't know. I remember my childhood so clearly even now and my teen years, like you were saying. Um, and I thought that was very common. I didn't even understand until I really got into this that people didn't remember every single thought and feeling they had as a kid. And I was a very deeply feeling kid. I'm still a very deeply feeling person. So I think being able to remember and empathize because I'm like, I remember what that feels like. I remember why I didn't want to do that. I still don't want to do that. I still don't want to eat my vegetables and brush my teeth. I don't want to do those things. I have to come up with fun ways to convince myself to do that still. And it's like having it's like having a child simulator in your brain. I could be like, would this work on me? Yeah. And I think for you, same thing with a teenager. You're like, well, I remember I have that simulator in my brain, which is going
Yeah.
to help me relate to my kid when they're a teen.
I mean, I still sometimes want to act like a teenager. I'm still
Same.
kind of like, I got stuck in there and I'm like,
Me
I
too.
don't want to do all this. I want to be an adult. This sucks. Like,
It's so true. So
okay,
true.
so I've also seen that you've expanded into like outside of the parenting and babysitting realm, like other like life hacks about again going into like manifestation or going into like things that living a life that you want to live. Like, can we talk about that? Where is that kind of like what's fueling all of that?
Yeah, I think even going back to being a kid, when you're a little kid, people are always asking you to dream. They're like, where do you want to go to college? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? And you kind of pick those things and then you stop dreaming. You're like, okay, I picked the thing I'm going to do and I'm going to go in that direction. And every now and then I'll just have these moments where I'm like, oh, wow, I look around and I'm so grateful. I'm like, everything around me is the thing I dreamed of and I have it now. And that means it's time to dream again
Yeah.
and set that intention and think about it again the way and ask yourself the same way you'd ask a high schooler where you want to go to college. Ask myself, what do I want for the next 4 years? It doesn't even have to be forever. And in fact, I don't think it should be.
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah, but I think, we get into careers and it's so clear what the next path is. It's this promotion or it's this company or it's this milestone. And I I don't know. There's just so many side quests and those are always shiny distractions for me. And so I'm good at dreaming. I'm not great at following through all the time, but I'm good
Yeah.
at dreaming.
I get it. I'm a notorious dreamer, and then I have to be like, okay, okay, come back, come
Yeah.
back. You also did a video about your hacks for adults living with ADHD, I think.
Mm,
Like, and I don't think I have ADHD. I mean, there was a moment there where TikTok made me believe that I did, and along with like a whole bunch of other things that I self-diagnosed. But uh,
totally.
but like that one was super interesting because like it made me, I know people who live with ADHD. And so you're like talking about like you could brush your teeth in wait, can you explain like the everything has a pump in your shower? Like, give me a recap on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Basically, if you have ADHD, your brain is very interest driven. And if you don't, your brain tends to be more importance driven. So for me, the more important the task does not make me able to do it. The more interesting the task allows me to do it. So things that aren't interesting to me, like showering, become very difficult, honestly. And I'm like, I
This
just
is
have
where
to
she
make it
reconnects with her childhood.
exactly. I'm like, I don't want to take a bath.
It's
I
so
get it.
boring.
So boring. And so if something is boring, I try to make it either like easier, more beautiful, or more interesting. And even really small things add up, like having everything in the shower be a pump top means I'm never having to like pick up a bottle. I
Get
can
it.
just like pump, pump, pump. Okay, we're good. Or and same
Yeah.
with skincare.
Yeah.
But also, I think we have so much free will in our lives, and we can look at the systems that don't really work for us and just change them. And I've gotten hacks from other people, and one of them was this woman said, I just keep all my socks by the door by my shoes. And I was like,
Practical.
genius. Why are
Yeah.
mine all the way upstairs? Like my shoes are
Yeah.
down here. And I think it's just kind of being able to say, okay, this system might be normal. It might be normal to have your socks in your dresser, but you can change those systems. We
It,
have free will and we can make things easier.
you could design your life to what works for you. It's all, I think it all goes back to design, right?
Exactly. Even I love seeing on TikTok now all these parents saying, I feed my kid dinner at 4 o'clock now. That's when they're hungry. And I was like, yes, I used to come home starving from school. We all just are like, no, for some reason, dinner has to be at 6 o'clock. We all just decided
Yeah.
that, but it doesn't. Dinner can be whenever you're hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I did have to like break away from the norms quite a bit. And once I had my daughter, and um doing that and facing it was kind of liberating in a way. And you're like, you know what? Actually, this doesn't work for me. The big one that, I mean, this is not a norm because it turns out that it's normal for a lot of other people. They just didn't talk about it as much here in the States, was like co-sleeping. Like that was a
Mm,
big one because I mean, when I was pregnant, literally I was bombarded with like, here's the sleep training, here's the book, 12 hours and 12 weeks and da da da. And if you don't sleep train your child or if they don't sleep in their crib, you're gonna kill them. Period.
mm.
Like it was like, oh, I have no choice. Um, and then when she was born, I was like, but hold up, like I'm not trying to let go of her. Like I don't want to. There's some weird animal instinct that's making me feel this way. And over the course of like years of her life, I'm like, wait a minute, like this is what feels natural for us. And then like you realize there's a whole other world where the entire other half basically is like, oh, actually, we do that too, but we don't tell anybody. I'm like, oh, but
Mm.
why? Like, if it works for you, who cares? Like, the only people that matter are like inside of your home, period. If I
Yeah,
get
and
it.
I think kids in general, like they're just acting on their feelings because they don't have all the social constructs that we have as adults. And I think, we think, well, kids need to sit at the table and eat 3 meals at the table and they need to sit in their seat and do it. And it's like, well, do they? Is that real true? Is anyone going to get harmed if we do monkey lunch or eat under the table or,
Yeah.
and once you kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a million things in our lives that we just think are normal. So we do them without questioning it. And kids are just natural questioners
Yeah.
of systems.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, they're like actually so much smarter. And I think as they grow, we like ruin them. Like I strongly believe that. I also feel like they're weirdly connected to other things. Now I'm going on in a crazy lane, but
No,
like
go there. I'm
my my daughter this week, earlier this week, she said something about how like, yeah, because in my other life I knew how to do this. And I was like, and I looked around, I was like, you guys, I go, one time I did, guys, TikTok. One time I went down this rabbit hole on TikTok about how, like, up until age 5 or 6, there's this like window in their brain that can connect to like previous lives and things like that. And then it closes, and then that's it. And not for everyone, but
yeah.
like, and I was like, what could it be? Because like I've never talked about other lives with her. Like that was so random. She's
Yeah.
definitely not watching this kind of stuff on YouTube. Like I know what she's exposed to. And I was like, yo, that was weird, but I'm
Uh,
here for it.
My brother used to talk about that all the time. Like my mom always talks about how one time my brother was so kind of got frustrated with my mom because he's like, you don't remember when I chose you before I was born? He's like, you don't remember that? He's like, how could you not remember that? He's like, I saw you and I chose you and I held onto your legs and then I was born. And my mom's like, what? And he also he had all these mannerisms that my parents were like, where did he get this? Like he'd be 2 years old and be like, oi. And they're like, who is that? Like a
That's
little old
amazing.
man.
Yeah. I mean, there are things like that with some humans, because here's another thing. People tend to forget that children are humans. Like you could wake up, you could be in a funk, you don't know why. It's okay. And we need to like give them space to like have that too, right?
A
Um,
100%. And control. Like, I think that's like my biggest thing with all my hacks. It's like, can you make it fun and can you give the kids some control? Because think about yourself. We don't like to be bossed around, especially
right.
when we're not in charge of anything. It's so overwhelming. And of course you would rebel against that if your boss just all day, every day marched you around and told you exactly where you had to be, exactly what you had to do, exactly how you had to
100%.
act, and you weren't allowed to have any feelings about that.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. That makes perfect sense. And that's another thing that like I've read at some point, and then I'm like, you forget. I feel like we need to be
Totally.
constantly reminded because we're like just going all day a million miles an hour, especially like, I mean, I'm sure it's tough for dads too. We're trying to be nice here, but like with moms, it's also like, but you also have to work out and you can't, look like this. And oh, but your wellness. Oh, but you might be perimenopausal. And it's like, good Lord, are you kidding? Like, let's catch a break here so much.
Totally. Totally. And, at least from my experience of watching from the outside, it's like anything a dad does is above and beyond. It's the bar is so low. And for moms, it's like you could be jumping, the bar could be on the moon, you could jump over it, and you're still falling short
Yeah.
somewhere.
There's like, oh, well, but you actually didn't do it as gracefully as you were supposed to. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's hard.
amazing.
It's tough.
It's tough. All right. Well, let me see. What's next for you? So you have a book deal. What is on your, do you want to manifest a little bit here? Put it
Oh,
out
I
there. Is
would
it?
love to. I think, oh, this is such a good question. I think I've found in my life that things happen so easily and so quickly for me when I'm excited. And so I have longer term goals of kind of just having freedom over my time and having space to do the things that make me feel excited. I can't always plan those. Like I had a side tangent where I made an AI pop album that I put on Spotify. I never would have sat down and been like, that's a goal I have. But I think the more space we have to just be bored, the more room there is to kind of create. So I'm like, I'm trying not
Wow.
to overwhelm myself with all the up with everything because I know that for me, in order to create good things, like I need some dead space. I need to be able to get bored to find my next thing. But overall, I really want the book to be amazing. I want to keep coming up with hacks. I love coming on podcasts. This is so fun. Thank you for having me
Of
again.
course.
And I don't know. I think I just want to give myself some space to create. And beyond that, I'm not totally sure to be honest, but that's exciting to me.
That is exciting. I'll tell you from I'm not sure how old you are. I know for
I'm
sure.
33.
33. Okay. So I'm 40. I turned 40 back in November. And at this point, I'm in a completely transformative season of my life. I basically took everything I ever did and like changed it all in the last like
Good
12
for
months.
you. That's
Um,
amazing.
and I thank you. And number one, I agree with you that the dead space and boredom allows for you to dream and ideate with what you want. There's a beautiful excitement in the unknown, layered with a little bit of fear if you are responsible for another human being.
Totally.
That part, it adds a layer. But it is so wonderful, and I think that you're about to live an absolutely beautiful season, and I'm super excited for you. And also grateful for all the reminders that you give us constantly that ultimately as parents are just to like stop for a minute, like
Yeah.
stop for a minute, get grounded, and like be a kid with your kid.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but yeah, so thank you so much. Can you remind everybody where they can follow you?
Yeah, thank you. You can follow me on Instagram at Chelsea_explains and on TikTok at Chelsea explains it all.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And this was so fun. I can't wait to listen to the episode and the rest of your podcast.
Thanks.